My Disney World trip is less than 7 months away, and we finally know where we're staying.
Welcome to Always Planning Disney, where planning is half the fun. I'm Melissa.
And I'm Cheryl.
On this channel, we talk through all of the details that go into making our vacations magical. I have realized there's two constants with our planning: make room for downtime, and renting DVC points is complicated. I bowed out real fast, but you have had a slightly different path, so give us the backstory again.
Yes, okay, so reminder, because I don't expect anyone to keep up with my Disney trip except maybe you, Melissa, although I'm sure you even lost track at this point in time. So we are once again renting DVC points from a family member. And this means that my process for booking this trip looks basically like it would if I were a DVC member, except that I'm going through my family member instead of doing all this stuff myself. So at the 11-month booking window, we booked a split stay at her 2 home resorts. So we had 5 nights in 2 studios at Saratoga Springs Resort and 4 nights in a 2-bedroom villa at Animal Kingdom Lodge, Kidani Village. So we already had our trip booked, but we were ready to shuffle things around at 7 months.
And so for 7 months, what were you looking for? What were the changes you were considering?
Yeah, so, okay, we would have had a great time if we had just stuck with the original booking. I just want to say that up front, that we're going to Disney World. It would have been fantastic. But yeah, we did want to make some changes at 7 months. And that's when DVC members are able to use their points at resorts that are not their home resorts. So she's able to put all of her points together and use them wherever in terms of the DVC resorts on property. And so we had to plan around a few things as we came up to our 7-month booking window. I was really hoping that they would have opened up point borrowing from the next use year, but it was still restricted to 50% at the time that our 7-month booking window opened. So that meant that only half of her points for next use year were eligible to be used, and that was a COVID restriction that they had put in place. That has since been lifted and things have gone back to normal, so thank goodness. I would be really frustrated if I were a DVC member with that kind of a restriction and no sense of when it was going to end, but we were working within that restriction. And then we found out in talking to our family member that, oftentimes you can modify a reservation online by yourself, just go in and do some clicks in the member portal. We found out that this was a more complex situation just because she has 2 different contracts and she was going to be putting things together, and there was just a lot going on with our reservation. So we found out that she was actually planning to call in and modify the reservation over the phone. And so this meant that since she was calling anyway, we felt like we had the option to ask her to purchase one-time use points for us. We hadn't wanted to do that before because we knew that required a phone call, and we had heard that there are really long waits on hold to get on the phone with these people. So we didn't want to ask her to do that, but she was calling anyway. And actually she told us she was on hold for all of 3 minutes. So I know that sometimes the hold times are really long, but I guess not every single day. But that also meant that since she was going to be on the phone, we couldn't really consult with her while she was figuring out what was available, because she can't be calling 2 places at once. It was during the workday, so I couldn't be sitting next to her when she was booking it. So basically, we needed to figure out a solid plan in advance. And so we did rule out a few options that I talked with you about a few episodes ago. So we decided we weren't excited enough about Saratoga Springs Resort to keep that reservation this trip. I could see it being a great place to stay on a future trip, but this one, it wasn't quite what we were looking for. And then we also ruled out doing a split stay where part of it would be on DVC points and part of it would be a cash booking at a value or a moderate resort. It would have actually been more expensive, and we would have lost the deluxe benefit perks, likely including all but 1 night of extended evening hours, which it's a 10-day trip. So we're actually eligible technically for 3, although one will be on our arrival date. So going from 3 to 1 and paying more money for it, that didn't feel so great to us.
Yeah. And that was one of my, maybe not one of my favorites, but one that I thought could be a lot of fun. But knowing that it's more expensive and you're losing the extended evening hours, I agree it is good to get rid of that one. So what options were you left with?
So we put together a ranked list of 3 options. We wanted to keep things really clear for her, but also make sure that we had enough kind of variety in our options that most likely something on our list would be available, because we didn't want her to have to call back. Like, we didn't want her to call. She goes through our list of 3 options and none of them are available. And so now she's like, okay, well, I don't know what they want. What am I supposed to do? And then she has to be on hold for another 3 hours or whatever. So we didn't want that. So our first choice was 2 studios at the boardwalk for the full length of stay. We knew there was a good chance that this was not going to be available because the boardwalk is very popular, but that was our first choice. And that was the way that we could stay at the boardwalk the whole time within the points that were available to us.
Yep. This is my favorite for you guys too, only because the boardwalk is the one that we both really wanted to stay at. And that's why I ended up not renting DVC points. They couldn't get me a stay at the boardwalk unless I shortened my trip or looked, I don't know. I had a 2-month window and they couldn't get me in at the boardwalk when I wanted to. I know you're compromising a little bit by going 2 studios instead of the 2-bedroom, but I still like this one best because you get the boardwalk out of it.
We decided being close to the parks, being able to walk to 2 parks, and especially to Epcot, like that was really the priority for us. We knew it was going to be a little frustrating to be in separate rooms, especially not knowing whether we would be able to get those rooms close to one another. And we actually found out that the boardwalk DVC rooms, you can't get 2 studios that connect. You can get them near each other, but it sounds like from what we could find online, you can't get them to connect. So we knew that we'd be going, out and in of rooms, even if we were like in the same hallway or something. So not an ideal room setup, but a great location. All right, so second choice would be a split stay with a 2-bedroom standard view villa at Animal Kingdom Lodge, and then 2 studios at the boardwalk. So this would be, there were sort of caveats with this one that made it a little more complicated. We only wanted to do a split stay if we could have at least 3 nights at a given resort. We decided fewer than 3 nights, and we feel like we either can't unpack or we're spending all of our time repacking and then unpacking again. We didn't want to deal with it unless we could get at least 3 nights at the boardwalk and at Animal Kingdom Lodge. And then we also decided that we didn't care about the order of the resorts, whether it was boardwalk first or Animal Kingdom Lodge first. We could kind of see pros and cons to either way. Like, we could see, okay, it would be really good to have the boardwalk first because we're going to be most energized at the beginning of our trip. And so to walk into those sounds really great. But maybe we also want to, start the trip with some more relaxing pool time. And the Animal Kingdom Lodge seems to have a better pool. So we could see it working out really well either way. So we just said, okay, as long as we can get at least 3 nights at a given resort, that would work for us.
I do like that a split stay made it to your second choice, because with the length of time that you're going to be there, a split stay could be pretty fun. You get to experience 2 resorts. It does at the dining booking, but we talked about that a lot. There's something kind of fun about getting to go to 2 different resorts. It's like having 2 trips in one.
Exactly. That was very appealing to us. And that was the amount of split stay that felt like it would actually be worth the hassle. We had talked through some other split stay options that didn't feel like it. So this one we were willing to compromise for. And then our third choice was a 2-bedroom standard view villa at Animal Kingdom Lodge, preferably at Jambo House. So we had initially been booked in at Kidani Village, and we were hoping to bump over to the other side of Animal Kingdom Lodge to Jambo House, which is sort of the main part of Animal Kingdom Lodge.
So what did you get with all of those requests put in, ordered, thought through? What did you end up with?
And Melissa actually doesn't know what we booked. So this is live.
Yeah.
So we actually weren't able to get any of these options.
Come on.
We tried so hard. So we will be staying in a 2-bedroom standard view villa at Animal Kingdom Lodge Kidani Village for the full trip.
Okay.
So we got very close to our third choice, but they were full over at Jumbo House. It was not available. And actually, this breaks my heart a little bit, but Boardwalk was briefly available. But by the time they had booked the first room, the second room had disappeared. It was going that fast that morning. So we like just barely missed the Boardwalk. And honestly, this makes us a little bit more nervous about what the crowds are going to look like in January. This is supposed to be a slower period. I know that oftentimes, the generally slow periods are busier for DVC because the rooms are fewer points per night. So I'm hoping that it's just like the DVC folks are there, but I think we need to brace ourselves for some big crowds.
Yeah. I cannot believe that you lost a room in the middle of the process, but at the same time, I completely believe it because I know it was like trying to make my reservation through a third party. Availability went fast. There was a lot of emails back and forth, switching dates, switching resorts. Yeah, that's why I left. But I'm glad that you have something booked. Put it that way. I'm glad you have something booked and it's for the full length of stay. And you got the 2 bedrooms, right? If I'm remembering correctly from 45 seconds ago.
Yes, we have a 2-bedroom and I'm really excited for that. That's going to be so much more convenient than having 2 studios, and we don't have the hassle of the split stay. So I'm really pleased with sort of that setup of things. And even though I had been a little disappointed when I first found out what we got, like, I'm not going to lie, I was sort of like, oh, okay, I don't get any of my choices. But after learning more about Kidani Village, we're actually really excited about where we've landed for this trip. I think it's kind of where we were meant to be, even though we're still sad about the Boardwalk. So I hadn't looked into Jumbo House versus Kidani Village, which are the 2 sides of Animal Kingdom Lodge, since we booked our last trip. And so on that trip, we had a toddler, so it made sense for us to book the side of the resort that had the playground for him, the big pool for my dad, and then the quick service restaurant for our whole family. And that's Jumbo House. That's the main part of Animal Kingdom Lodge. And so we just said, like, okay, we loved Jumbo House last time. We'd like to stay at Jumbo House again this time. And I didn't think that was a big ask, but apparently it is. So once I found out that, like, okay, we've got our final booking and it's a Kidani that I know very little about, I went Googling, as you do. And the first thing that I learned about Kidani Village after we got our reservation is that there is an awesome water playground over there.
Oh.
Like splash pad, but some playground equipment type stuff too. Like, it's going to be great. So our kindergartner, not toddler anymore, is much more into the water now. And he's so excited to play there. We watched several YouTube videos kind of showing the whole area. It's pretty big. Like, it's much bigger than anything that we've taken him to so far. So in fact, we're trying to, summer in Minnesota, we're trying to get him to some splash pads. We've got him signed up for swimming lessons because he's been behind on that, what with the pandemic. So we're trying to kind of work on his, water excitement even more so that he can really enjoy that water playground at Kidani.
Is there anything else at the resort you're looking forward to?
Yes. Okay. I know some people will understand this. So I was super excited to learn that the 2-bedroom lockoffs at Kidani Village have something that the 2-bedroom lockoffs at Jumbo House don't, and that is a 3rd bathroom. There are only 2 bathrooms at Jumbo. There are 3 at Kidani. So great. So you have like 1 bathroom near each of the bedrooms, which is what we had last time, but then there's a 3rd bathroom, full bathroom with a tub and a shower and everything near the kitchen. And so that's going to be great because I tend to wake up really early, get myself completely ready before I wake up the boys. And so now I'm not going to be at any risk of disturbing anyone who's still sleeping. I don't have to go and borrow the bathroom on my parents' side because they wake up earlier. Like, it's going to be fantastic. So I'm really excited about that.
That's nice. That's more bathrooms than I have in my house.
Right? Me too. I didn't even think about that. There's also more people in this room than there are living in my house. So I guess it works out okay. So there are still a few drawbacks to being at Kidani Village. So we aren't going to have a quick service restaurant over there. That's only at Jumbo House. I mean, there's a pool bar that has some food, like you could make a meal of the options there. but not having that quick service restaurant is probably going to change what we place in our grocery delivery order. I'm guessing we're probably going to eat breakfast in the room most days, which is fine. I think we probably would have done that anyway, just because we are planning to rope drop and juggling, you know, trying to get down to the restaurant and through that line and eat, and then also get to the bus stop early enough for a true rope drop. That's all kind of hard. So I think we probably would have done it anyway, but now it's more like, okay, I got to have a good breakfast in the room plan in place. And then we will be stuck with bus only transportation because there are only buses to Animal Kingdom Lodge, even though there absolutely should be another form of transportation, at least to Animal Kingdom. Like, come on. So I was really hoping to avoid another bus only trip. As I said, you know, last summer when we started talking about hotels. So we're just going to have to budget in for some minivan rides, or maybe even consider a car rental. We talked about that a little bit last episode. I'm not entirely sure if I want to do that, but we need to think about what are some other ways that we could get around so that I'm not going insane in an hour-long ride to get back to the resort after the fireworks. But really, I think we're so excited to just have sort of a do-over when it comes to Animal Kingdom Lodge. So we're going to be setting up our schedule for this trip with more space so that we can hit the pool, we can watch the animals, go see the flamingos that our son is so excited about, and do those resort activities. There are tons of really cool ones at Animal Kingdom Lodge that we want to check out.
And hopefully they're done testing smoke detectors while you're there.
I will lose it. I will lose it. I don't think there is going to be any construction. I've tried to kind of like get a sense of that, and I'm not hearing any reports of construction. So please. Good.
Yeah. And I do, as an aside to that, I always appreciate how open Disney is with where the construction will be and when. It really helps with trip planning. Unless they announce it after you've already booked your trip, then too bad. But in my experience, we've frequently stayed at places that were under construction while we were there, but they did it in a way that it didn't interfere with our trip at all. We've survived construction at Pop Century, and we appreciate those updated rooms. They're wonderful. So Disney, I'll thank you for that. In terms of all the free stuff you took away from me, no thanks there. But I like the heads up about resort construction. Well, I'm so glad that you have a trip booked, like actually the one that you will go on now. It's been a journey. We've been talking about this for a long time. I'm glad it's in the books.
It's been a journey, but now it is in my Disney experience. It's real. We're going to be there. All right, thanks so much for tuning in. Is there anything we absolutely must do at Animal Kingdom Lodge? Let me know in the comments. And remember to like and subscribe to plan along with us.